Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. So, Sundered Doctrine has properly released now. We're out of the contest window, and whilst we're not finished with the quest that unlocks a lot of the story and secrets, there are absolutely some things I need to touch on and talk about. And well, I think a lot of the dungeon's story is going to relate back to the biggest mystery of the entire dungeon, one that's lying right there in front of you at the very end, and yet it's tantalizingly left unanswered. That question is simply this: what is behind the final door? What's in the vault? You see, the Dread, according to the objective markers, and according to a lot of what Savathûn says at the very end of the dungeon, were drawn here to this place in Rhulk's Pyramid by a power that they believed they could use. The power that drew the Dread there is not seen, but I can't help but believe that it is perhaps the most important part of the story that hasn't yet been touched upon. So today, we're going to do a preliminary investigation. This is very much a part 1 to this question, and I imagine we'll get an answer at some point. Heck, we may even get to open up those doors. But for now, just know that this is just a series of best guesses and theories, because that is all we have. So for those of you who don't know, Karev is the final boss of the Sundered Doctrine, a scion turned weaver by the Witness. And it's them that really started the search for all of this. Given their size and strength, I imagine this might actually be a scion flayer of some kind originally, aka a scion that has absorbed a significant enough dose of power to ascend into a greater form. 10 years on, and we still don't know much about the scion flayers, but we can tell that this metamorphosis can happen quickly from almost anything with sufficient power. The process of metamorphosis is referred to as an evolution commonly in the lore, in case you were wondering. Regardless of Karev's former status, whether they were a flayer or just a regular scion, they are now one of the more powerful members of the Dread that we've ever encountered, with a superior command over the power of Strand. As a character, Karev's lore also points to them representing a significant teaching about the character of the Dread generally. That teaching is simply that amongst the higher forms of the Dread, there is still a grasp of individuality, albeit individuality that is trapped behind the newly formed shape that the Witness carved for them. They refer to the Witness as the Knife, or the First Knife, and they refer to their birth as what they became because of the Knife. Especially after the death of the Witness, the Dread are in a place of flux. Much like the Taken, they've been desperately searching for power. In the case of most of the Dread, they're looking for that power in order to be commanded by someone once more. They have lost direction and purpose. This is not universally the case. The Dread in the company of Karev have actively sought to exert their independence, and in doing so, have become more dangerous than we might have initially anticipated. In doing so, the Dread are seeking to make more of their lives, and to forge their own path forward. This might be admirable were it not for the means by which they've chosen to do so. The raw power that these Dread seek can apparently be found deep within Rhulk's Pyramid. The Vanguard, needless to say, maintains a hidden task force in proximity to this place, and deep within Savathûn's throne world, purely for the reason of studying this dark relic and keeping its power and secrets out of the hands of our enemies. The Dread decided to go in here for power, and they just so happened to choose possibly the most dangerous thing to mess with, something with which they are somewhat familiar because it's pyramid tech, but which also holds the power to eliminate whole systems. Needless to say, that must not have been the most thrilling thing for Ikora to realize when that crossed her desk. I think the best demonstration of both the nature of this power that the Dread seek and the newly found independence of the Dread can actually be seen within the lore of the dungeon Sparrow, which is called Future Proof. It's from Karev's perspective, and you might find it a bit odd at first because of the way that the wording is in it. In particular, there is the use of a pronoun you might not recognize, which is I or EY. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is just to denote that the subject is gender neutral. For now, just know that that is not a typo. I will make what I must be, because to be what I am is fatal. Karev the Erased. Karev has a fine whispering voice and a fine whispering mind. Come with me, A says. I smell a smell of power, I taste a wisp of a waft of something to feed us. Karev adorns thyself in prizes, acquires attainments. I displays resinous worms, maps knotted in umbilical cords and tangled in quartz storage. I pours handfuls of jangling coins into open palms to let the pattern of their fall suggest direction. I covers the body granted by the knife and vows to have better. If not the before body, then a new one, a better one, a whole one. All lean in to touch the coins, to read the symbols of obverse and reverse. A glimmering and a gleaming answers stirring fingers. I won't take the knife again. I don't care who wields it, says Janur in a brave, groaning little voice, and flips her blades about her elbows as if to say, any deity who dares try it, I'll cut back. They are hunters, all of them, and it is a hard hunt. The sniffing out and the reading of entrails and the long, long journeys through foreign lands. Voices speak to offer power, a place to rest, a floating duty, comforting and mindless. Karev's whispers break the tightening chords of the hum from Saturn's rings. He tells stories of what was and what is and what could be through the journey. I will be beautiful, Karev says. And I will be whole, Janur says. And I will be myself, says a heretofore silent subjugator called only the Farul. We will make ourselves anew, Karev murmurs, and all hiss in hope as painful as the touch of the knife. The power Karev sought was seemingly something that could feed the dread, something that would allow them to enact their own purposes and desires. Savathun has more to say on this at the very end of the dungeon.
I could feel that one from all the way outside. Oh my. A failed grasp at power. Poor dears. The dread are in a pickle. They need something, anything to feel whole. And you thwart them at every turn. Does that make you feel big and strong? Like a hero? Like a killer?
We still don't know what this powerful something at the heart of the laboratory is, but I can't help but feel like it is related to the worms. The heart of the lab is closely guarded, and the place is absolutely brimming with worms, be there ones encased in quartz, as you can see all over the walls, or be they the dead ones that lie discarded. By the way that the facility is set up, it seems clear that this was probably the place where Rulk grew the worms in order for them to be experimented on. This would have been the place where the worms were initially fed to the Scorn, as you can see in Vow of the Disciple, and the final results of those experiments were quickly put to work in the form of the Caretaker. But who knows how far back those experiments truly go. However, the source of the worms is clear: Zeta, the worm that now lies dead, coiled forever in supplication below the upended, just as she was when we eventually destroyed the upender. So what is it that's behind the door that's so important to all of this? All we know is that it must contain a degree of power that the dread can feed upon. Karev's words seem to imply that the power would be capable of changing them. Janur implied that she would be able to become whole again. Karev said that they would be beautiful again. To change the dread would require a great degree of power, given that they were seemingly, or at least for the most part, shaped from the light of the Traveler and were cut by the ancient force of darkness of the Witness. But it's here that I think we need to take a closer look at the exotic weapon attached to the dungeon. I think that is really the key. So yes, there is an ancient power behind the door, and we don't know what it is. But the initial thought that I have is that it pertains to the worms. And I have a theory. one that pertains to the idea that maybe Finality's auger is also related to that power. That's going to be a video that's already written, and I'm voicing literally right after I'm done with this one, and you will be getting that just in a couple of days. I'm going to touch on what that means and why it might relate to Rolk and some of his greatest conquests. But for now, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and of course if you have any thoughts of your own, go ahead and leave them down below in the comments section. My question to you this video is simply this: what do you think is stored in the vault? What do you think lies at the heart of the labs? And why do you think Rolk kept it there? Was it to contain it and keep it away so that it couldn't damage him? Or was it perhaps to contain something that he might be able to use? I'm fascinated to know what your thoughts are. With all of that being said, if you want more stories from universes near and far, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on email notifications. And of course, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Per audacia ad astra. I'll see you, Starside.